Joining us now on the phone is Brian Scalabrine, NBC Sports Boston. Scal is brought to you by Shaw's and Star Market, perfecting the art of fresh, by John Sewer and Drain Cleaning, the name to know when the drains don't flow, and by findmassmoney.gov. Scal, appreciate you joining us this afternoon, coming off the win 4-1 of the series against the Magic. What was your biggest takeaway from what went down over those five games and the Celtics advancing?
I mean, my biggest takeaway, obviously, you have to look long term, is I thought it was really interesting how Orlando just guarded us straight up and tried to limit the 3-point attempts. And for the most part, I would say if you're Orlando, minus that half, like you have to think like, man, we had a pretty successful series against the Celtics. So moving forward, I'm like, does that give a blueprint to everyone in the NBA of how to guard the Celtics? Now, a lot of people don't have the Orlando Magic personnel, but I think you do got to kind of look at them and say, man, they did a really good job against us, and then great job in the second half for the Celtics to have the floodgates open up and then finally get on track with the three-point shooting.
Scal, I mean, did you see the way they won last night, really throughout the whole series? I mean, they showed that they could win with ISO and just driving to the rim and not having to rely on the three-point shot. Do you think they're going to have to play this the way they did last night, that style, again to win a series, or you think that's just unique to this series against Orlando?
No, so I'll give you like the Knicks. If the Knicks win the series, they don't have the personnel to do it. If the Cavs win the series, they don't have the personnel to do it. If Indiana wins the series, they do have the personnel. They're just a little bit smaller. But if you're asking me, the team that I would worry about the most that could do that, what the Orlando Magic did, and still make shots and be good offensively, is Oklahoma City. So of anybody that can replicate what Orlando did against us, the one team that would stand out to me with whoever's left is Oklahoma City. Outside of that, everyone has to kind of play to their personnel, and I don't think most people have the personnel. You know, like Orlando's massive, man. They're big, they're strong, they're super physical, they're handsy. Like those guys can guard, they just couldn't shoot. So if we have this conversation in what I guess would be a month, 2 months from now, and we're talking about, no, I guess it would just be a month, and we're talking about Oklahoma City, I will bring up the Orlando Magic in the way that they guarded the Celtics.
So I wonder, I have to imagine, rather, Scal, that Joe Mazzulla is almost very happy with how this series played out. You know, he gave Jayson Tatum the guff, and, you know, Tatum maybe didn't love being told to get up, but he seems to have helped Tatum unlock a next level of his game that you've been talking about for a while. And now his team gets literally a little bloodied and bruised up, but they survive it. They toughen up, and this may really galvanize them for the long run against a bunch of other teams that might be like, oh boy, now the Celtics are angry and they're playing great ball.
So a lot of people say that, but I don't like that. In my experience, like that's not a thing. Like each series takes a life of its own. Like what you take from the Orlando Magic series doesn't necessarily carry over to the next series. You know, I think you can improve as a player, but a lot of people have been using that. And unless, you know, like I don't know something about the game, I just feel like, you know, you gain experience on your own, and it could be either Orlando Magic, it could be anybody. I do think, like, the physicality of Orlando could prepare you to face certain types of teams, but the whole, like, idea that now that we played the Magic and we're galvanized, I don't actually believe that. But listen, I could, like, when it comes to, like, the emotional side of the game, I get that wrong a lot. Like, me and Abby talk about it all the time, and Abby brings up certain things, and I'm just like, man, Abby, I don't necessarily think it's like that, but come to find out, it's more like that than I think. So you might be right. You know, like they might be sitting around the locker room and be galvanized by beating the Orlando Magic. I don't necessarily feel that way, but we'll find out the end result, and we'll find out if any of them say something like that, you know, unprovoked.
Brian Scalabrine, NBC Sports Boston, joining us here on WEEI Afternoons. And you look at this series, and there were some guys that had some struggles. It didn't seem like Porzingis ever really got going. Pritchard, that's been a thing with him and the Magic. But I think my biggest long-term question is, what's the status of Jrue Holiday? Is this going to be an issue that lingers? Are they being overly cautious so it doesn't carry on in the postseason? What's your handle on his health?
he doesn't. So I got no idea. Like, obviously, I'm not analyzing his hamstring, right? Like, I'm not.
You're not a doctor?
Examining him, but I know what an injured player looks like. Like, I know what they look like when they walk around, and I know what the fear of, like, man, I'm missing out on a golden opportunity or anything like that. I can only tell you, like, Holiday does not look devastated about his injury. And Holiday's a competitor, and he lives for this stuff. So to me, it's like, hey, man, we could beat Orlando without you. If it was Game 7 and we needed you, maybe you can figure it out. But take all the time you need. If we can get through this series, which we think we can, then you'll get a couple of days off. And, it probably helps that the Knicks lost that game to Detroit. So I can only go by this. Like, watching Holiday, he doesn't seem like a guy that's, like, down and out about not being able to return in the playoffs. But with that being said, we know, right, calves, hamstrings, growing injuries, those are the ones that you got to be super cautious of. And you can't come back when you're like 90%. You got to wait till you're 100%. You got to test it. You got to see how you feel the next day. So I think there is, those are the three injuries when you got to be careful. So I wonder how they'll use Holiday coming back.
Yeah, they say, soft tissue injuries, once it feels like 100%, give it another week is kind of what they say on those. But
yeah.
You mentioned Kristaps, Porzingis, and his best series. It felt like, when he got the ball in the high post or the elbow area and he turned to face his guy up. I mean, they were just right up in his shorts and weren't letting him get comfortable at all. I mean, Do you think that that's a concern? Because you talk about maybe a blueprint for defending the Celtics. I feel like there's maybe a blueprint that came out of the series for defending Kristaps. Your thoughts on him and just how important you think he is for them to make a title run here?
All right. So I think I kind of say this on the broadcast. I like Porzingis. I think he's a versatile big. I think you can see him when he rolls. I like how Joe moved him to the corner, and then usually Al doesn't play the short roll position, and that's like when Tatum gets the ball and throws it over the top, and the guy catches the ball at like the free throw line, right? Yep. That's called the short roll position. And Porzingis stole from the corner and he dunked it, right? So, and then Joe Mazzulla had a timeout in Orlando where he flared Porzingis to the basket. Tatum threw a bad pass, but he got it back, dunked it, and won. So this is me personally. And listen, I know the numbers point to Porzingis individually on post-ups is really strong. But to me, I like Porzingis as a versatile big. So that means picking and rolling, picking and popping, picking and using a switch, running early post-ups, peeling out to the corner, stretching the floor. I don't think that he's good when he's one-dimensional. I think he's good when he does 5 different things. So that's my opinion on Porzingis, right? A unicorn, right, in general, is because a guy is that size and he can do everything. A unicorn is not a 7'3" guy that could score on the block. A unicorn is a 7'3" guy that could shoot the three, he could dive, he could dunk it, he could tip dunk it, he could do a little bit of everything. So I just think sometimes we get so caught up in a steady diet of Porzingis in the post against a mismatch that sometimes we lose like the idea of like, no man, we have a versatile big here. Let's use him as his versatility. I think he's at his best when he's doing that. The numbers as a team would show you that. The numbers individually would show you still want to post up Porzingis, but I've always been a fan of. I'm not trying to axe the post. I'm just trying to say like you got to use them more than just that.
Back to the Tatum front, real quick, Scal, if I can. So, this series took on a life of its own, and the narratives were what they were. And now, whatever the next series is, it'll have its own storylines and dynamics. But do you believe that Tatum will be able to carry? Like he was defended aggressively. Obviously, his teammates were struggling, so he lit it up and took the lead. Do you think? Do you believe that he'll be able to continue that? Is this just an evolution in his game, like you've been trumpeting for so long, or do you think he did that because, in large part, the rest of his team was having a hard time getting around Orlando's aggressive defense?
Yeah, I say the evolution. I think he's playing at an all-time great level, and he was already really good, and I think he's even better, right? So that's where, and I think his reading of the game is on a next level, and I think strategy of the game. Like, this is kind of, I think, what you're alluding to. Like, okay, if this isn't working, then I'll do that. If the guys aren't making shots, let me make a few. Let me break the seal, bust out 2 jumpers, and then let me move the ball and get Sam Hauser a 3, right? Let me open up the floodgates for everybody. So in my opinion, the answer is, yeah, this is the best version of Tatum. It's good to see Tatum play this way, and ideally, like, he'll continue this. And that adage, like, give the game what the game needs. Tatum's doing a good job of that right now.
All right, Scal, appreciate you joining us. It's on to either the Knicks or the Pistons. We'll get that going next Monday, and by the time we talk to you, that series will be well underway. Thanks, sir.
You got it, guys. See ya.
All right, see you, Scal.
See you, Scal.